What I want my generation to understand, and a lot of the media that's really hard on us, they say, Bitcoin's just for hedge fund bros. It's just for the youth to go get bottle service and party, and it's the Miami yachts. It's not. My generation is struggling a lot. It's not an investment. It's a revolution first. You see, government debt to me is a form of time travel. If we could just print money, why is there such thing as world hunger? Why is there such thing as poverty? Why is there such thing as depression? Who's burdening the cost? But your jobs and your growth and your income is exploding. Is it though? All the bad things, it's the blues' fault, it's the reds' fault, it's the left's fault, it's the right fault, it's Trump's fault, it's Biden's fault. Is it though? You're literally traveling into the future and spending my resources and my kids' resources to go to war, to waste and spend money and grow debt.
Mallers argues the truth is much grimmer. The majority of the market is in decline, and for everyday people, especially the youth, real prosperity is vanishing. Despite the stock market's strength at the top, ordinary people are experiencing stagnant wages, deteriorating health, and fading job security. He then zooms out to provide a geopolitical and monetary context. The US dollar, he explains, is not just a currency, it's a weapon.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
And then today, we're living in what I call the Mag $7, which is, this is the Wall Street Journal. It's the Magnificent Sevens market. The other stocks are just living in it. Because as a youthful person, they say, the economy's booming. You're so lucky to have the stock market. Is it though? I mean, these 7 companies are booming, but the rest of the stock market is shit. They're like, we're about freedom and prosperity. Are you though? Because this is growth of the US sanctioning countries. So we're gonna print these pieces of paper, force you to use it with violence, and then weaponize your access to it. You're like, well, all the bad things, it's the blues' fault, it's the reds' fault, it's the left's fault, it's the right fault, it's Trump's fault, it's Biden's fault. Is it though? Looks like everyone's doing it. They're like, well, it's all contextual. And they say, and they tell us this in school. And they say, well, you gotta add context, These numbers make a lot more sense when you realize the size of the economy. Really though? Because percentage of GDP, we have more debt than we did at World War II. But I just went to school. We're not in war. Well, we always are somehow, but not in a world war. And they say, but your jobs and your growth and your income is exploding. Is it though? It is on Wall Street, but not for my friends. It's not. And so, chapter 3 is the dilemma we chose. What I don't think people know is we, as in the West and America, we chose this. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't the prior president's fault. We decided this. If the whole world needs dollars, and that's the system we designed, we just went through the history, how do they get the dollars? Our job as a country is to just print them and hand them out. So we print and hand out dollars to the rest of the world, and in turn, we get oil, we get energy, we get food, we get iPhones, we get beds, we get everything that we consume. So we don't actually do any proof of work. We don't export anything real. We just print paper and we give it out to the rest of the world, and in return, we get real stuff. Who wins from that system? The world and the elite win, and who loses from that system? You have to understand, there's a cost to everything. There is no free lunch. If we could just print money, why is there such thing as world hunger? Why is there such thing as poverty? Why is there such thing as depression? Who's burdening the cost? Because I want to be super clear about something and have the back of my generation. We export dollars, but you know what else we export? Our jobs, our health, our stability, and our well-being. The cost of printing money is not paid in dollars. You hear very often that it's like, we have a lot of debt, but we could just print it, right? The cost isn't paid in the pieces of paper they print. You want to know what it's paid in? I'll tell you what it's paid in. It's paid by us, the people in this room, and especially the youth. We've been sold that global reserve status is some form of superpower and that I'm lucky. It's a disease. Printing money is a moral violation. You see, government debt to me is a form of time travel. You're literally traveling into the future and spending my resources and my kids' resources to go to war, to pass your stupid bill, to waste and spend money and grow debt. You're pulling forward the resources of those that aren't even born yet. You understand that we borrow prosperity from our kids without their consent. You see? Fiat is a moral violation. Not just an economic one, not just a US one versus Russia versus China one, a moral one. Okay, so what do we do about this? How do we solve this problem? What I want my generation to understand, and a lot of the media that's really hard on us, they say, Bitcoin's just for hedge fund bros. It's just for the youth to go get bottle service and party, and it's the Miami yachts. It's not. My generation is struggling a lot. I mean, ask any of the parents in this room. It's probably not going the best. It's probably not perfect. And for me, Bitcoin is about morals. It's moral code. Before it's computer code, before it's an asset, before it's a network, it's moral code. What are Bitcoin's morals? You shall not censor. You shall not inflate. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how many guns you have, doesn't matter who's the president. This moral code is you shall not inflate. You shall not confiscate. Bitcoin is property, and it's your property. You shall not counterfeit. You shall not steal. Before Bitcoin's about the best performing asset that Wall Street is falling in love with, it's about ethics. It's about morals. This is the moral code that us humans that have paid the cost of a century of money printing, this is the world that we want to live in. No theft, no inflation, no ability to censor. Everyone is treated equally here. No ability to confiscate and counterfeit, right? Now the question is, how can we get away with this? And this is another thing I want the youth out there, those of you on YouTube, to really understand. Because we're sold so much bullshit. So much. And so a guy like me sitting up here in a hoodie sounds crazy. But I need you guys to know that Bitcoin finds its strength in its numbers. You understand? Both in cryptography, which I'll explain in a second, but also in the fact that we all believe in it, and everyone in this room and everyone around the world that's willing to defend it.
And that's what Bitcoin is, a number so strong, so secure, that it can't be reversed by power, wealth, or warfare. A decentralized system enforced by millions who believe in its philosophy. It's not just about returns. Yeah, 50% year-over-year returns have been dope, he jokes. But that's not why we're here. We're building the future. In Maller's vision, Bitcoin isn't an investment vehicle. It's a peaceful revolution. It's a new foundation for a new economy, one based on ethics, transparency, and decentralization. It's how we reclaim power, not with violence, but with math.
This was a tweet of mine from 5 years ago. Someone said, "I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but I'm bearish on Bitcoiners." And I said, Bitcoin without Bitcoiners is simply unused software. Bitcoiners are Bitcoin. The nodes that enforce the consensus rules are operated and defended by humans. If you're bullish Bitcoin, then you're bullish Bitcoiners. Do you understand? Before Bitcoin's an asset, it's a philosophy. Before Bitcoin's a network, it's a movement. Bitcoin is more powerful than war. It's more powerful than government because of math. Sometimes it's really hard to conceptualize numbers. We hear about things like, oh, that guy's a millionaire. Oh, that guy's a billionaire. Oh, the US government has trillions of dollars of debt. Do you guys know how big those numbers are? How big is a million seconds? A million seconds was about a week and a half ago. Reasonable. A billion seconds was 32 years ago. You see how big that number just got? The difference between a million and a billion? How long ago do you guys think a trillion seconds was? We were under ice. Wow. You see, the way Bitcoin works and finds its strength in numbers is we all generate a really big number that no amount of war or guns or money printing or oppression and violence can solve. A number so big that no amount of violence can solve it. Putting a gun to my head can't solve math. Do you know how strong Bitcoin's property rights are? If you wanted to rob my house, you could kill me and my house will be there for you to take. You wanted to rob my gold, you could kill me and my gold will be there for you to take. You want to rob my Bitcoin? The only way to guarantee you can't get it is by killing me. It's a number in my head. You see? You know that you can take the energy of 1,000 suns and you still can't crack my private key. Bitcoin's strength comes from numbers. As Julian Assange said, it isn't obvious the universe had to work out this way, but somehow the universe smiles down on encryption. And so how do we, the people, how do we, the youth, engineer a moral code and a moral world for us to get out of the mess that we were born into? We do it peacefully and we do it with math. We find strength in numbers. We find strength in each other. We invert the power balance. I'm sitting up here more powerful than any US politician because I own my own private keys. I run my own node. You understand? Bitcoin's strength is in the numbers behind it. Its true power isn't political or military. It's mathematical. We don't need violence. My message to the youth, you guys, we don't need to protest and go to war. We don't need permission. We don't need to go ask the politician or ask your teacher or ask, you just need a really big number. We don't need political favors. We don't need to lobby anyone and get them to sign our bill. Fuck that. It's not an investment. It's really not. It becomes one. Don't get me wrong. 50% year-over-year growth for 13 years for me has been lit. Shout out. I'll use the kids' terminology. It's been dope. But it's a revolution first. So the future isn't something that we wait for. It's something that we build.
Jack Mallers doesn't pull punches, and in this unforgettable speech, he lays bare the truth about fiat money, generational theft, and the moral bankruptcy of the current system. For him, Bitcoin is not about speculation or status. It's about sovereignty, equality, and building a just world. To the youth watching, he sends a clear message. You are not powerless. You don't need permission. You need private keys, a node, and a belief in a better system. Because Bitcoin is more than just code. It's our chance to invert the power structure peacefully. Please like and subscribe.